In. A decade ago, Dave Fishwick set out to create a new type of bank in his local town of Burnley to take on the big financial institutions, and boy, did he do well. Hollywood has now come knocking on his door.
The Bank of Dave will be made into a Netflix biopic, which will tell the story of the banker who prioritised community-based helping, those community-based help to those who are struggling in their local businesses. Yes, exactly. Perhaps we need to get Netflix to write the next cue. We'll chat to Dave in a moment, but first Kira Durkin takes a look at his incredible story.
Burnley, the birthplace of Sir Ian McKellen, now the hometown of another movie star in the making, Dave Fishwick. 50 years old and a self-made millionaire who left school without a single qualification, Dave started his working life as a labourer and then went on to make his fortune setting up his own minibus sales company. In 2011, he opened Burnley Savings and Loans to help locals in the Lancashire town who'd struggled to secure loans from bigger banks and those at risk of getting into deep debt with payday loan companies.
I want to open a tiny, tiny bank.
It became Britain's first new high street bank in more than 100 years and has now lent more than £27 million to thousands of people and businesses. Dave's attempt to take on the country's fat cat financial institutions has been so impressive it will now be made into a Netflix film. The entrepreneur will be played by James Bond star Rory Kinnear, and the pair have even gone for a stroll around Burnley to visit the famous bank before filming begins later this month. From a small Lancashire town to the bright lights of Hollywood, Dave Fishwick has found his fortune and helped many along the way.
Good man. Good man.
Pride of Lancashire.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Burnley.
a wonderful place to live.
Isn't it? You're talking to the converted here. Now, Dave, this is a really sensational story. Just to be clear, we were talking about Bridgerton starting, again, with Richard Arnold. And Phoebe Dynevor, daughter of Sally Dynevor from Corrie, who's in Dancing on. Phoebe Dynevor, how many people were watching her in Bridgerton?
200 million plus views.
And it's relevant to you because...
Phoebe is starring in the Bank of Dave.
Hey!
Hey! I mean, fabulous.
It is incredible. Tell us about... We'll talk about your story in a minute. Tell us about the phone call that you got from Netflix or Hollywood.
America.
Well,
it happens all the time when you come
America.
from Burnley. I got this phone call about 14 months ago, and it was a guy called Piers Ashworth, a lovely man, and he actually wrote Mission Impossible for Tom Cruise, like you do. And he said,
Oh,
Dave...
get out of here, go on.
He said, Dave, I want to make a movie about your life. He said, I've just made a wonderful movie called Fisherman's Friends, which did brilliant in the UK, about a group of fishermen that went on to Glastonbury. And he said, we're looking for another feel-good movie with everybody having a tough time.
How did they hear about you? How did they know you existed?
I'm Dave from Burnley.
There's a
Silly
TV,
question.
yeah,
Ask a silly question.
the whole TV show.
Yeah, well, I've made 19 different programmes for different channels, and I make programmes that make a difference. Myself and David H, we sort of look at where we can make a real difference, like the Payday Loans one, the Lone Ranger, where we took on the payday loan industry and helped shut some of them down. And we won an RTS for that, and we've done some powerful stuff. But the phone call came, and he said, I want to make a movie about your life. So he came to Burnley, because that's the only place I wanted to do it at. And he said, Dave, let's make it happen. And then it got bigger, because then Netflix got involved, and they said, we love it. Let's make it happen.
And they're filming it in Burnley, are they? Or has it already been filmed?
Centre of the universe.
Centre of the...
They're going to be filming it in the next few weeks. It starts. There's going to be hundreds of people. It'll be like a circus turning up. How wonderful for the area to be given such a wonderful makeover, and people will see how brilliant it really is.
Oh, listen, I mean, I will, as you say, you're preaching to the converted. I mean, I spent 20 years of my adult life in the north, and I love Burnley. One of my best friends comes from Burnley. It's a fantastic place. So we can take that as a given, OK? Burnley's a great place to be. But you're being played by Rory Kinnear.
Yes.
Which we think is casting to type, because you're not dissimilar.
Well, he's better looking than me.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I'm glad you said that.
You look very similar. It's brilliant, isn't it, that casting?
I met him last week, and he come to my house, he said, Dave, meet Dave.
Nice.
It was marvellous.
But is he so your voice, it's very distinctive. How is he going to get into your head?
What he did is he put his phone down and started taping my voice, and I could tell he was really getting into character. I mean, he's won an Olivia. You know, that's on another level. And I just can't believe how lucky I am having somebody like that going to play me.
The main feature in the Burnley accent, it's the way you say your R's. So it's not Burnley, it's Burnley, isn't it? Burnley. That's
They've
it.
got it now.
They've already cast Richard.
Live in the drain.
Oh, go on.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, he can get in.
I mean, the romance of your story is really impeccable, isn't it? Just we teased it earlier on. 16 years old. Tell us who you were then.
Well, I was 16 years old, left school, absolutely useless, no qualifications whatsoever. Ended up on a building site as a builder's labourer on £27.50 a week, and I didn't have the price of a chip butty. I remember being in a chippy and I had 35 pence on me, and she's cooking the chips. I'd ordered a chip butty, and I thought, oh, I'm a couple of pence short, and this is a true story, Allen Road, Nelson. And she's cooking the chips, and she's putting the salt and vinegar on, and I said, I'm ever so sorry, I'm a couple of pence short, thinking she'll just take a few chips off the top and give it me anyway. And I thought, but she won't actually take the chips off. And do you know what she did? Took half a dozen chips off the top. And I thought, I do not want to be poor. I want to do something.
Yeah.
And that's a true story. And when you get from there where you can't afford a chip butter, that's when you think, right.
So when was... I mean, we could spend all morning talking about your life story. It is fascinating. But what was the light bulb moment in terms of setting up this bank? What happened? What was the experience that made you think, I've got to make a difference here?
That's a good question, Richard. Late 2008, early 2009, my minibus customers were coming to me, like they always did, buying a bus, and we'd fill the forms in, send it off to the bank.
You sell buses, use buttons, yeah.
We're the largest supplier of minibuses in the country, but we started with one bus and then become the largest. So there's a story there, but that's a different movie. But so people were filling the forms in. I was sending them off to the banks. The bank would pay me. They'd get the bus. Wonderful. And then overnight, it just stopped. The banks just stopped lending. And I'm thinking, have these customers not paid a bill? Have they got a CCJ? Have they moved house without telling somebody? But do you know what, Ranvir? They'd done nothing wrong. It was the banks that just stopped lending. And I thought, well, do you know what? If I trust these people and I believe in them, why don't I lend them the money myself? I know where they live. I understand what they do. They pick people up and take kids to school, and they're just good, honest, ethical
It's like
people.
what you used to go to the local bank manager for, because you'd know him.
Brilliant.
Or
'Cause that's
her.
David H., my right-hand
Yeah.
man. 60 years in the banking job.
Yeah.
Most honest, ethical man on the planet. If we're running the Bank of England, we wouldn't have any
And if
problems
you
at all.
lose high street banks, you lose that connection with the community you're
Absolutely
serving.
Right, that's what's happened.
So I lent them the money, they paid them me back. And do you know what? I thought, this banking malarkey, it's not that difficult.
Yeah, they
one
make
quick
it
question.
sound complicated,
They do,
but you've
on purpose.
uncomplicated it.
One quick question before we leave it, because we have to move on. Have you ever made a bad loan that you haven't got back?
Well, of course, we don't give free ice cream away, and occasionally we do loan money and people don't pay back, but we've got less than 5% bad debt. We give the best interest on the high street, less than 5% bad debt. We only lend to people who can't borrow from the high street bank, and the profit we give to charity.
Yeah,
Well, you're a great man.
It's a brilliant story. Your life is really incredible. I cannot wait to see this film. Do you know when it's going to be on Netflix?
It's going to start being filmed in the next few weeks, and I'd love you to come up and you can have a walk-in park.
Oh, I'd love
Especially with an accent.
hang
Now,
on a
get
minute.
your R's right.
As long as I can say Burnley, I'll say Burnley. All right, you're on. In fact, I would say to you, you can take that to the bank. Thank you very much. All right, it's 7:51 just gone.